Hi, I'm Jules from the Haines Collection. I have a business that sells leftover designer fabric and wallpaper with the end goal of hoping to reduce waste in the interiors industry. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to British Standard for inviting me to spend 15 minutes with you doing something fun, different and exciting. So today I am talking about making your boring matchboxes into a thing of beauty, even maybe so beautiful that you might want to give it away as a present. They're actually really lovely thing to give with a pretty candle or something like that. So I'm going to be covering two today. This one is covered with wallpaper leftovers, so I keep everything. I can't throw any bit of fabric or wallpaper away because you never know when you might need it, making present tags and things like that. Anyway, endless amount. So this is a wallpaper one, and this is one that is covered in fabric. Really don't need very much. So what I'll do is I'll run you through everything that you need to make these. So let's go. So what you will need is a matchbox. It doesn't have to be a new one. It can be something that you've already got lying around. You just want to make more pretty. I bought some in Tesco's, Sainsbury's when I went. You can get some really cool extra long ones that I think are really lovely and elegant, make you sort of feel quite regal when you are doing your candles or lighting your fire. And I bought these on Amazon. So up to you wherever you want to get yours. So you'll need matchboxes to cover. You will need some scissors, pen, permanent marker pen. If you have one, don't worry, that's a sort of nice extra. Yoo-hoo glue, another biro or pencil, and then your scraps. So this is a bit of wallpaper. Quite often what is good is if you've ever sent off for a sample and you get given a A4 piece, just keep it and you can use it for something like this. And then any bit of fabric you've got. Doesn't even have to be anything that is sort of upholstery fabric. You can use an old pillowcase, duvet cover, as long as it's not too thick, because you're actually going to be folding this and gluing this on, so you want something that isn't going to be too sort of thick and chunky. And that's about it. So let's go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make a template. So you just need any old piece of paper and just draw around it and make sure you get all three sides. The fourth side will obviously not need any covering because that is what you are going to strike your matches on, and cut that out. I did one earlier actually in red so that I can work with that later with you, and it's quite easy to see. But what I would do once you've cut that out is just double check that it fits and that it's a good fit for your matchbox. Now the next stage is I will get your permanent marker and get rid of that yellow. So normally you have a nice yellow bit from your box. So I didn't really like the look of it. And once you've stuck your wallpaper or your fabric around it, it's quite hard to get your pen in. So now would be the time is I would just colour all of that in, colour around it, maybe do 2 layers. This actually needs 3 layers, I think. Just so it's not a glaring beacon of yellow once you've made your pretty covering. So now while your pen on your matchbox is drying, your permanent marker, think about your fabric. So I went for a dark, this William Morris fabric that is from a leftover fabric book. So always upcycling, reusing what I have left lying around. Give it a really good press, give it a really good iron. I went with something dark. I felt that the darker covers would cover up all the writing and things like that better. I think if you had a particular fabric in mind that was lighter, you could probably paint the box white first to make sure that none of the wording and pictures and everything underneath came through. So yeah, you should definitely do that. Get your template and place it on your fabric. And what you want to do is leave about 3 millimeters all the way round so that you can fold it in. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw around. Oh, actually, I'm going to be a bit economical and do it in the far corner. I always do that. It's so tempting just to put it smack bang in the middle. Anyway, right. Draw around my template. You can use a pencil or a pen, depending on the colour of your fabric. My fabric's quite dark, so I can use a dark pen, but if you've got lighter fabric, I would suggest to use a pencil just in case it shows through on the other side. And I've just roughly left 3mm. You don't have to measure it, and done that from the edge. You probably can't see, but I've drawn around it, and I will now get some sharp scissors and cut it out. Great, so once you have cut it out, you fold in the edges up until the line that you had drawn and give it a really good iron. I presume you've got an iron at home. If not, you could probably just give it a really good press with your fingertips. It just really helps if you can iron it. And once you've finished ironing it, what I would do is just test that it fits around your matchbox, because sometimes you realise that you've gone off a bit and it's a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, and you actually need to let a bit more fabric out. So once it's the perfect size, you can see in the corners they're a little bit bulky. So what I do is I get your sharp scissors. These are my very precious fabric scissors that I don't let anyone touch because they must only be used for fabric, because paper blunt scissors. Go into the corners and just cut off the excess fabric. Just be careful not to slip your other fabric. Can you see? I've done it there. It just gives it a nice flat edge. So you're cutting from one edge into the corner, almost the end, but you don't want to snip the end. You just want to be taking out the bulk of the fabric so that it sits as flat as possible on your matchbox. And now it's time for gluing. So when I make my matchboxes, I actually glue the box. So what I would remind you is to make sure that the strike side is out. I'm sure you're not gonna be silly and not think about it and end up gluing over it, but just in case, you know, these things happen. So I'm gonna go right into the corners with my Yoo-hoo. And if possible, if you've got time, leave it to go tacky, because it's just a bit easier to work with. And then do that. And so what I do is I actually stick one side down first, make sure that it's in exactly the right position, and then move on to the other sides. So there we go. So I won't bore you with sticking down the sides because I think you can manage that. And so yeah, I stuck down that side, stuck down the end, and there we go, you're finished. A lovely little matchbox with perfect corners. And they're so pretty, it means that you're not gonna probably want to throw it away. And you can just keep refilling it. And if it does get a bit knackered and tired, just throw it away, but you have been reusing the fabric that you've got lying around. I will show you the wallpaper because it's so simple. It's actually a lot easier. And for this, you will need wallpaper, a craft knife, ideally, or sharp scissors, and more glue, and that's it. So I'm going to do one of my long matchboxes because I love these, they're so pretty. And so what I'm just going to do is draw around it. I'm going to draw around it, but when I cut it, I'm actually going to cut it a tiny bit bigger than it is. So if you're butting it up against the corner of your matchbox wallpaper, then just give it a bit of breathing space. So you draw around one side, just like you did, draw around the end, and then draw around the third side, again leaving extra so that you can, and actually at this point it's worth just folding it around just to make sure that it fits. And this one's fine, so what I'll do is I'll cut it out a little bit outside of my lines, because what I'll do is get a craft knife and cut it down afterwards after I've glued it on. So then you know it's absolutely perfect. As you can see, I've just got an old chopping board. I just grab whatever is around in the house rather than trying to find a nice, you know, craft board or something like that. So yeah, back to where we were. Give it a glue. Make sure the strike side is out. If you've got a pattern that you want it to go a certain way, make sure that it's going the right way. You can always change the pull of the box by pulling the whole thing out and reversing it, which I've done before. So if you do get it the wrong way around. So yeah, let's glue this down. Again, right into the corners, leaving it if you have time so it can go tacky. And then just sticking down one side, making sure it's exactly where you want it to be in line, because while it's still drying, it's quite easy to move it around. But afterwards, you're sort of done. Anyway, that's the gluing. So when I'm gluing this, I'm gluing the final side. I actually just pull it tight to make sure that the end is sticking and that it is as firmly on as possible all the way around. As you can see, I've got an overlap, which I did on purpose, because if you cut the wallpaper out wrong, it's not like with the fabric that you can pull out a bit more from the bit that you were going to fold down. With wallpaper, once you cut it, you cut it. So I did that on purpose, and I'm going to get my craft knife now and cut it down. So this is, if you are doing this for children, this is the bit that I would recommend that you don't let them do. And push the knife in. If you catch any of the box as you're doing it, which is quite easy to do with a craft knife, then you can always go back and get your pen out and touch it up. And when you get to the ends, recommend you doing both the ends first and then the spine, because otherwise you'll get into problems if you're trying to do it all at once. And then you can pull the little legs out so it's flat and have a really good view down it to cut round to do the spine. And the idea is to try and do it in one clean cut, because otherwise you'll have little snags and it will look just a little bit messy. I need to do this side now. But really, you know, it's homemade. I quite like it when things aren't perfect, because you know someone's put time and care into it, and that it hasn't just come straight from a shop. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And really, the more you do, the better you will become at them. And the more members of your family and friends will have them, because you'll have them taking up your home and you'll need to get rid of them somehow. So there we go. Have I done that? Oh, I didn't go all the way through on that one. Right. We have liftoff. So there we go. A beautiful matchbox that you have created yourself using leftovers and scraps. Make as many as you want, as many as you can. Pile them up, they look beautiful on a mantelpiece. If you've got an old postcard or something that you love, you can always paint the matchbox, let it dry, cut out your bit of your postcard that fits the top, glue that on top, maybe get a gold pen or a permanent marker and draw a border around it, personalise it, put someone's name or a happy birthday message, or a special date. Yeah, and just keep going until they all pile up and you've got lots of them. So I hope you enjoyed that. Really quick craft, less than 15 minutes. Do it with your family and save those scraps, save that textile waste from the bin. It doesn't have to go in the bin. It can be beautiful presents.